Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday season, enjoyed the break, and maybe even stopped looking at the sky for a few days. But while we were unwrapping gifts and arguing about resolutions, our interstellar visitor, 3I Atlas, was busy writing a new chapter in history, one that the official channels are trying very hard to ignore. In today's video, we are not going to rehash the history. You know how it was found, you know the initial confusion. Today, we are dealing strictly with the new data that has poured in over the last few weeks, specifically from late December 2025 through the first week of January 2026. And let me tell you, if you thought this object was just a weird rock, you need to hear what I'm about to say. We have a CIA cover-up mystery, we have impossible physics captured by the Hubble Space Telescope just days ago, and we have a forecasted rendezvous with a moon of Jupiter that could prove once and for all that this thing is being steered. But before we dive into the classified documents and the anti-tail jets, do me a favor. If you believe that scientific anomalies deserve investigation, not silence, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the data we're covering today breaks every rule in the Comet Handbook. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most unsettling update from the holidays. We've been told repeatedly by NASA officials, specifically in that press conference back on November 19th, that 3I Atlas is unequivocally a natural comet. Case closed. Nothing to see here. Move along. If that's true, if this is just a chunk of ice and rock drifting through the void, then explain this. On December 31, 2025, New Year's Eve, a researcher named John Greenwald Jr. received a response to a Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) request he had filed with the Central Intelligence Agency. He simply asked for records related to 3I Atlas. Now, usually, if you ask the CIA about a comet, they'd say, "We don't track comets, that's NASA's job," or "No records found." Or, if it's harmless public info, they might release a few mundane emails. That is not what happened. The CIA replied that they can, quote, "neither deny nor confirm the existence or non-existence of records related to 3I Atlas." This is famously known as the Glomar response. It is a tool used by intelligence agencies to protect classified operations. It is used for spy satellites, covert military actions, and matters of national security. It is not used for dirty snowballs melting in sunlight. Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard raised the obvious question immediately. If NASA is so certain this is natural, why is the possibility of CIA records on it classified? Why is a rock treated as sensitive information? Loeb suggests a black swan theory. Intelligence agencies operate on risk assessment. Even if the probability of a threat is low, say 1%, if the impact of that threat is catastrophic, like an alien probe or a weapon, you treat it as a high-priority issue. They are hedging their bets. They are applying Pascal's wager. They'd rather be safe and secretive than open and sorry. They saw what happened with massive intelligence failures in the past like 9/11, and they are not taking chances. But here's the catch. While the CIA hides behind neither confirm nor deny, they are letting NASA tell the public it's just a rock. They are managing panic by withholding the uncertainty. They are investigating the black swan in the dark while telling us it's a white swan in the light. This response effectively confirms that 3I Atlas is being monitored by the intelligence community distinct from the scientific community. Now, let's look at the physics that just broke the models. We have new images fresh from the Hubble Space Telescope taken on January 7, 2026. When astronomers look at comets, they expect tails to point away from the Sun due to solar wind and radiation pressure. 3I Atlas, however, has decided to ignore Physics 101. The new Hubble images show a prominent anti-tail, a jet of material pointing directly at the Sun. Sometimes perspective can create an optical illusion of an anti-tail, but Professor Loeb's team analyzed the geometry. This is not an illusion. The anti-tail is real. It is tightly collimated, meaning it's a narrow, focused beam, not a messy spray. It is 11 times longer than it is wide, extending for roughly 400,000 kilometers toward the star it is supposed to be fleeing from. This structure looks less like a melting comet and more like the exhaust plume of a craft fighting against the solar wind. Loeb even noted that the structure, a triple jet system, looks suspiciously symmetrical. Some observers have compared the shape to a jet fighter. And here is the kicker. The scientific establishment is trying to bury this too. Loeb tried to publish a paper on this anomaly in the astrophysical journal Letters. The editor rejected it without even sending it to peer review, claiming it would be of rather limited interest to the research community. Limited interest? An interstellar object with a sunward-facing jet that defies standard behavior? Thankfully, the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society disagreed and accepted the paper, but this shows the bias. The "it's a comet" narrative is so strong that data challenging it is being labeled uninteresting. But the story gets stranger because 3I Atlas isn't just venting gas, it seems to be navigating. According to trajectory forecasts, 3I Atlas is heading for a specific, calculated intercept. Mark these dates, March 16th and March 17th, 2026. On March 16th, the object will cross into Jupiter's Hill sphere, the region where Jupiter's gravity dominates. It will pass within 53.61 million kilometers of the giant planet. But the very next day, March 17th, it will make its closest approach to a specific, irregular moon named Euphemie. Euphemie is small, only about 2 km wide, a captured object orbiting in a chaotic path. The odds of an interstellar traveler randomly shaving past this specific tiny rock are infinitesimal. Here is where the physics gets impossible again: velocity. When 3I Atlas passes Jupiter, it will be moving at a blistering relative speed of 66 km/s. For context, the escape velocity from Jupiter itself is about 60 km/s. Loeb points out a critical mechanical problem. If 3I Atlas were a natural comet and it fragmented near Jupiter, the pieces would fly off. Natural fragmentation cannot impart enough energy to kick a piece into a stable orbit at those speeds. However, if 3I Atlas is an artificial craft, this flyby is the perfect opportunity to deploy a probe. Loeb says we need to watch the Jupiter system like a hawk. If we suddenly discover a 96th moon orbiting Jupiter, a new object that wasn't there before, it would be definitive proof. That object would have had to apply a massive artificial braking thrust to capture itself into orbit from such a high-speed flyby. Why fly this specific path? If you were sending a drone to another system, you would want to maximize data. 3I Atlas is aligned with the ecliptic plane, the flat disk of our planets, to within 5 degrees. By staying in this plane, it got a front-row seat to the entire show. Using the transit method, Loeb's calculations show a chilling timeline of surveillance. 8,000 years ago, it could have detected Earth's oxygen signatures from the Oort cloud. By 1950, when it was 1,000 AU away, it was positioned to detect the chemical pollution of our Industrial Revolution. And in 1977, when the famous "wow" signal was detected, 3I Atlas was exactly in the line of sight. On January 22, 2026, Earth will be nearly aligned with the Sun from its vantage point again. It is taking one last look before it heads to Jupiter. Finally, we have to talk about chemistry. Spectroscopic analysis has revealed a prominence of nickel relative to iron in the gas shed by 3I Atlas. In the natural universe, these exist in specific ratios. What we are seeing here is reminiscent of industrially produced nickel alloys. Think high-grade steel or radiation shielding. It looks refined. It looks manufactured. When you combine this industrial signature with the anti-tail plume, the picture becomes clear. We might be looking at the hull of a craft or the exhaust of an engine we don't understand. Avi Loeb recently referenced the fall of Troy. The citizens brought the wooden horse inside, thinking it was a harmless gift. They didn't check inside because they didn't want to seem paranoid, and that night the city fell. The CIA's response is the modern equivalent of locking the gates, but not telling the citizens why. Perhaps they suspect it is a threat, but know there is absolutely nothing we can do about an object moving at 66 kilometers. Silence protects the peace. It keeps the market stable while the government investigates the black swan in private. But we have eyes. The scientific wall of silence is cracking. We have a specific test coming up on March 16th and 17th. If 3i Atlas releases a probe at Jupiter, the debate is over. No amount of secrecy can hide a new satellite in our own solar system. Until then, stay vigilant and keep sharing this data. This holiday season, we looked back at our past, but right now, something in our sky is looking at our future. I will be tracking the Jupiter approach every single day. If there is a course correction or a deployment, you will hear it here first. Do not let the silence fool you. The evidence is screaming. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment with your theory. Is it a surveyor, a scout, or just a very strange rock? I'm betting on the scout.